Welcome back to 21 Steps, an audiobook podcast by M.A. Box. Chapter 21. While Derek was enjoying his evening meal, the rest of the world was already starting to move on. Derek had only a small paragraph in the next day's paper talking about his case. Although there were still web pages and blogs out there to discuss him and what he had done, none of them were being updated and a few people were looking into them. It was strange how quickly people move on and forget. Every once in a while there may be a comment or an information update, but for the most part, only the people who feel a real loss remember every day. Leslie's parents wouldn't forget, and neither would his parents or his two sons, but the rest of the world would slowly move on. Charlie and Linda were no exception. Charlie continued to do the best he could, working cases and trying to solve them all to save the world. Linda continued to work on cases that were brought to her throughout the county. Charlie and Linda were in love and had distant future plans to get married. Charlie probably thought of Derek more than any other person that wasn't a family member, and it was only because he still couldn't figure out how things had turned the way they did. He still felt like something was missing, and every once in a while he would feel the frustration of not getting it exactly right. Derek was just one case in a long list that he had and was working. He thought of it still, though, and Linda still teased him. He went to bed each night with Linda next to him and felt so lucky that he had her in his life. The Derek Sterling case had brought them together and had left a sliver of good in the world, which normally wouldn't be seen. He knew that nobody would understand that it was a murder case that brought them together, but it was, and he was thankful. After dinner, Derek went back to his bed, nestled in the corner of a small cell with a bunk on top and within touching distance of a small metal toilet. He let out a deep sigh. He couldn't believe that after meeting for only about an hour with a 30-year psychiatrist with a stain on his tie, that he finally was going to get some resolution to the issues that he was facing. He had dedicated his life to the service of the United States. He had spent time fighting a war, watching his friends and his own life at risk day after day, not to mention leaving his family behind. He had spent the last year and a half trying to get assistance from the only medical treatment that the military service would provide, only to be rewarded with a second call of duty. He made sacrifices for his country. He knew that after his time spent overseas, his life would never be the same. He wasn't able to provide a safe environment for his wife and children anymore, and that became the turning point in his life that he knew he would have to do something drastic in order to get the help that he needed. He hated lying. He hated putting on a show for people that really wasn't him, but he hated even more feeling like he wouldn't be able to be normal again, and he would never be a good father to his children. He fell asleep that night, knowing what only he knew. Derek knew that he didn't really kill his wife. He knew that she had indeed just drowned in the bathtub of her own accord while he had been visiting his parents. But he also knew that he had to get help, any way that he could. The military, the government, the doctors at the VA, all had let him down. He had been let down his entire life. Finally he fought, made a decision to make them help him and put himself in a position to get the help that he needed. A single tear fell to the pillow as he closed his eyes. He would miss his children, and he hated that he had to give them up to be whole again and to allow them to be whole. He hated more that he had to lie. He had to lose all of his friends and family just so he could try to undo what time in Iraq had done. His children would suffer. There was no doubt about that. People would always know of their father as a killer. He hoped that one day when they were older he would be able to tell them the truth. To tell them that he did it to save them. He would tell them about the television program he had watched one evening that had opened his eyes at how he could get help. He would tell them about the times he found himself in their rooms, almost ready to hurt them. He would tell them about how their mother had loved them, and that he had loved her and would never hurt her. He hoped that they would believe him. He hoped that he would get the chance. He hoped that the sacrifice wouldn't be too great. He was thankful, because he finally had hope. The end. Thank you for listening to 21 Steps.